I started realizing that the person that I want to be, and I think a lot of people want to be, are those that are the most free. And to be free, you need to see the systems and mindsets and beliefs that don't serve you. And that became the foundation of the 20s detox. The sooner that we can do this, the sooner we can decide things that are really for ourselves and not for other people, not to help another person, support another system that doesn't really ever care about us. Now I am sprinkling, detox messages mainly in every single one of the newsletter articles. So if you want to know more about like the detox behind the 20s detox, as well as just have written versions of the episodes and more guidance and more actions, that's on the newsletter every single Sunday. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 20s Detox. I'm Bianca, your host, where we dive into all the things that I'm learning and unlearning in my 20s to elevate this decade. Please make sure to follow along. I post an episode every single Tuesday, either relating to seasonal guidance or advice in your 20s. I also have this goal on Spotify of reaching 100 reviews by the end of 2026. If you've been listening to the podcast and you are enjoying it, a review would mean so much. Today's episode is going to be about 5 unlearning lessons that I have rediscovered in my 20s. So it's not just an unlearning message, but a relearning message. And this is a part of this cycle that I talk about within the 20s detox. Is you go through this cycle of learning, unlearning, and relearning. And that cycle is continuous. It will never end, because as we learn things in our life, they might serve us at a certain timeline. And then other times we realize it's not serving us anymore and we need to unlearn them and relearn a better belief system, mindset, habit, etc. that supports us with where we are now. And these ones, I don't think I'm ever going to learn again. These are the big unlearning messages. I think about this thing as not just like a 2D cycle, but think of it as a 3D spiral. So as you are going through unlearning, relearning, learning, it goes deeper and deeper with a better knowing of what aligns with you. So my hair is doing some wild things. I'm going to just let it be. But without further ado, let's get into this episode. The first one, rest is earned to rest is my birthright. I wholeheartedly believe that none of us on this planet are meant to work ourselves to the ground. I believe all of us are meant to be feeling abundant, that they don't need to sacrifice their well-being for work. And that might seem like a privileged statement, but it comes from every aspect. Like, to be grateful for sunlight, to be grateful for little things. It's not about the luxury, it's about the mundane. To romanticize the small moments, that you will allow yourself to rest. A lot of the people who I see don't rest enough are those that are stuck in this hustle culture, and they think that it is only earned after they reach this certain level of success that they will never reach. They'll never reach, because when you approach it with hustle culture, your ego is behind that, and your ego is never satisfied. Y'all already know that I was stuck in hustle culture for a very long time. I believe from working seasonally now and following my seasonal workbook, I no longer feel this way. It's so freeing. Guys, I don't even really know how to explain how powerful that switch is for me, to just no longer feel so exhausted all the time. I know that when I rest and I close off my computer at a certain time at the end of the day, and I have a normal work day, like 8 hours, not 12 hours, I am able to replenish my energy, my creative energy, my emotional energy, my mental energy, to show up as my best self the next day.
I noticed that rest
is a part of the work. What you thought is the opposite is actually a part of it, where you think rest and work are two different things, when maybe we can start viewing in a way that it is a part of the work, that to rest will give us the ability to work better the next day. And that also plays hand in hand with like playing and having fun and being childlike and not always being serious, like allowing yourself to have fun and to actually appreciate everything you're working for. I think the biggest thing that made me like do this switch in my brain being like, oh my gosh, was because I heard this entrepreneur talk about, so many people want to be entrepreneurial so that they can enjoy more of their life. But all they're doing is working even harder than they would during that corporate 9 to 5. And the question really is, what are you working so hard for? If it's money, what are you wanting the money for? Is it just so that it grows in your bank account? Or is it to experience things? Is it to be happy about your life? Because once you start being happy for your life now, where you're living now, what you're doing now, then in 20 years, you're going to hold that gratitude there as well. Because one of the things that I learned here is I was begging for this opportunity of where I am 10 years ago. And I didn't see it back then that 10 years ago was also an amazing time. If I'm not present enough to understand the beauty that's around me and to appreciate it now, I might not appreciate it 10 years from now when I have what I want currently. So resting is so important because it allows you to slow down and be present again and to appreciate all that you're working for, the food on your table, like we rush through lunch and we don't realize that we're working hard to pay for those groceries. When you have that appreciation, work comes so much more effortlessly and you're able to step away from the work because you realize I've worked this hard to appreciate what's coming now. And that's not always being like rest is earned there, but rest is my birthright. Rest is a part of it. And even if I didn't get everything I needed to do on that to-do list that day, I'm still allowing myself to relax. So that's the first thing that is a big unlearning message, because I know so many of us are still stuck in the hustle culture. We're surrounded by people within hustle culture. And those people are going to tell you that it's silly to be this way. But then you really want to wonder, how happy are you about your life? How much do you love your life? How much do you appreciate your life with where you are? Or are you constantly fantasizing about the weekend or that next vacation or somewhere down the line when you have a different setup? Because if you are like that, then something is not allowing you to appreciate right now what you have. And a part of it can be the constant grind and the constant hustle. The next thing, the next unlearning message is transitioning from failure meant that you chose wrong to failure is data. Failure is a sign that you are moving and that you are not just standing still. Similar to how I described rest, failure is a part of success. I've been saying this. This is a huge, huge lesson for spring, and I'm going to keep saying it until you guys get it in your brain. Failure is a huge part of the success. It is a part of the success. Without failure, there is no success. Without failure, we didn't even do anything to put ourselves into a position to be successful. And when I started really embodying that, it took me out of a predominant thing that a lot of young people have, and it's analysis paralysis. When you have analysis paralysis, I have an episode about that, a blog post about it, but it's when you are feeling afraid to make a decision, afraid to make a choice. There are so many choices that you have in front of you. Which one is the right choice? And you get so overwhelmed that you don't want to make any decision at all, because what about if you're making the wrong choice? But to realize that every single choice has that risk, with every single choice, there will be failure, then the pressure releases. Then you're able to just say, I'm going to choose anyone. I'm just going to do it. I also think about what one of my friends says about like the fig tree analogy, where there's a lot of ripe figs that are coming down from this tree. All of those different figs that are dangling from the tree, is a path that you can take within your life. Depending on which one you take, will choose whether or not you have kids or you don't have kids, or you're in this career or you're not in this career, or you're living here instead of there. And it's all laid out for you in that one piece of fruit. I need to know a little bit more about the story, but from what I have seen people describe that as is the person kind of waits too long to the point where the figs go bad and they rot. So then there's no more path to choose. And that's a similar analogy to springtime as well. There's such like potent, loud, bold energy, just like waiting for you to make a decision with. And if you're not wanting to, then you're going to miss your opportunity. Really, the thing is, if you are failing at something, then that means that you're not standing still. That means you've made a choice. And although you might be more hypervigilant to see the failure, you're also forgetting that you're seeing a lot of success. You are seeing success. You made it happen. I don't know about you, but I'd much rather be somebody who is constantly moving. We're so young. We have so much time to experience, to mess up. And I would rather experience everything than nothing because I'm afraid to fail. And I encourage you to do the same with that. The next one is the transition of your degree is your ceiling towards your curiosity is. The idea of that is never stop learning. Never, ever stop being the student. The honestly most successful, happiest people I know who I adore and want to be one day are those that stayed curious, asked questions, dove into different types of genres of books, or even took more certificates, stayed open to learning from different types of people, versus those that, in my opinion, are quite boring. They're so boring. They might have an awesome degree and an awesome career, but they only can talk about that. I don't know when this switch happened with me, but I think it really began after university, when I woke up and I realized, oh my goodness, I don't even really like this degree that much anymore. It was very cool to learn about it, but I think I was always naturally a very curious person. I enjoyed it more for what I was learning about science than basically even the field itself. So I feel I've always been this really curious person. However, I had this pressure on me to have these titles, to fall into these nice little proper roles within society where people would be proud of me or feel impressed by my knowledge. And I'm learning to let that go. I'm learning to realize I don't need titles to be knowledgeable. I don't need titles to be intelligent. I don't need titles to know that I've learned something. I can stay curious, and there's so much free information out there. And also to stay curious at this age allowed me to be much more intentional with my choice of further education if it was more the traditional route, with health coaching. I think about Dead Poet Society when Robin Williams is sucking the bone marrow out of life, is essentially romanticizing life, experiencing life to the fullest, carpe diem. I loved that. I think that would change something within me to really be I want to know, I want to experience so much about this life, more so than need to look a certain way and on a piece of paper or to other people. It took a lot of unlearning. I think unlearning messages can seem really simple, but then when you feel it inside of you, and you feel it with conviction that I've made this switch, that's when you start to feel more free. The next one is you need to find the right career by the age of 25. Transitioning over to your 20s are a time to explore. I'm only 27, so I have 3 more years of my 20s after this. I am so happy that I have approached my 20s in the way that I have, with exploration instead of rigid decision making, focusing on one thing, not really having my blinders open for other professions, other ways of living, other ways of thinking. And I became this sponge in my life for everyone to realize I can learn from everyone. I can even learn from those I feel like I might know more of what they're talking about, because potentially they're going to teach me another facet of that lesson through their experience. All of that accumulatively, is that a word? Just gives me a better foundation to know who I am, what I like, what I would like to do with my life. Opens up so many more possibilities. Like, it's also just saying that you can change your mind. Like, you can change your mind with your career whenever you want. And especially in your 20s. Like, I know that can seem so scary, but like, scary about what? Like, for other people judging you? Life is way too short to really care about what somebody else thinks about what you do with your life. I promise if they judge you, it's probably going to be about like 5 seconds, and then they're too busy worrying about their own life and their self. To be honest, I just feel like it's good to stay open, maybe not with just your career, but in other things, like other types of friends, other types of conversations, and be open to communicating with a bunch of different people that you would never communicate with, and also to travel. I think traveling in your early adulthood is special. Like, I think I learned so much more about myself and what I liked from traveling. And it gave me a lot of creative energy to keep me going through my work and my exploration and my life, really, because the creative energy was like so big inside me. I feel like I don't lack creative energy after I travel for quite some time. I really just don't want you to like attach to anything by the age of 25. There's so much more that you could be open to learning. And the last thing that I'm going to say is this unlearning message that consistency means that you're hustling, versus consistency can mean that you're showing up exactly where you're at. When I was in the early stages of trying to get out of hustle culture, I was very, very wary of so many different things within the work realm that seemed too hustle-y for me. And I do believe that sometimes we need to hop from those extremes, like hop from the extreme of hustle culture to the extreme of the soft life, before you're able to reach this good balance of work-life balance. One of them, when I did this big shift to like more soft living, is I viewed being consistent and showing up every single day as almost like a way of hustling and not allowing yourself to rest, when really consistency doesn't mean showing up 100% of the time every day. It can mean that you're just showing up with where you're at, which can be 70%, 50%, etc. And showing up for yourself is not for proving to somebody else. It's to prove to yourself. It's to build the confidence within yourself, build self-efficacy within yourself, to say, hey, like, even through hard times, even when I didn't have the energy, I still showed up for myself, and I gave myself grace. I didn't push myself too hard, because I also have that foundation of rest. Consistency can be within the hustle culture if the motivation behind it is to grind. You're not allowed to play, you're not allowed to rest. Like, you have to show up every single day, because that's how successful people act. But really, being consistent, when you have the foundation of like love behind it, is I'm showing up for me because I deserve it. For example, I am in my bedroom of my apartment with literally nothing still in this apartment, because I am slowly but surely building up the funds to, make my place feel more like home. And I usually record podcast episodes at my parents' house in their dining room. That's what the usual setup is. And I just planned in a way that didn't work out, and I needed to record it anyway. And although it's a bit more difficult to record in my little bedroom, I made do. Even though I feel like my energy could be a little bit higher, because I'm no longer in my follicular and my ovulation phase, I'm in my luteal phase, I showed up how I could, and I tried to give the information that I could to you today. And do I need it to be perfect? Does it mean that if this episode doesn't pop off, that I'm failing? No, I'm being consistent. I'm staying true to my word about spring. I'm staying true to my word about the theme within May of staying connected to the flow and letting myself show up as I am. Those are 5 things to summarize. That rest is my birthright. That failure is data and means that you are moving instead of staying still. My curiosity is my ceiling, not my degree. Your 20s are a time to explore, not to find the right career by the age of 25. And that consistency doesn't mean that you're hustling. It can mean that you're just showing up with where you're at. Let me know in the comments which one of those resonates with you the most. I feel like right now for me, what's resonating with me the most is the consistency, just because it's like a big theme for spring. So I feel like just remembering that being consistent doesn't mean I'm like betraying myself and falling into this hustle culture mindset. I'm showing up for myself in a more intentional and loving way. Thank you so much for listening and coming to see the 20s Detox every single Tuesday. I'm going to release another episode next Tuesday. Have a great week. Newsletter comes out Sunday about this with more tips. Bye.